Shocking, Millionaire Snubs poor girl, but her epic translation earned 1 billion today only. In the dimly lit corridors of Willow Creek High, whispers echoed like ghosts. A palpable tension hung in the air, thick with disbelief and excitement. Emily Hayes, a quiet kid with wild curls and chocolate-brown eyes, stood clutching her crumpled paper, a collection of words that could change everything. Today was different, the future loomed, bold and daring, like a shooting star frozen in time. What she didn't know was that $1 million decision teetered on the edge of her fingertips. As she entered the bustling cafeteria, her heart raced. The millionaire Chad Mercer, a tech mogul whose name was synonymous with luxury and ambition, was here. The glitter of his watch was nearly blinding, and as he sauntered in, heads turned. Students dropped their fries and lost their breath. Chad was not just wealthy, he radiated power. Emily felt small beside him, like a feather caught in a storm. Then there it was, the epic translation, a document she had crafted painstakingly late into the night. It detailed ancient myths and modern truths in a way that could make anyone listen, even a billionaire. But why would he glance her way? She stole a nervous glance, his attention was already consumed by a gaggle of cheerleaders. The air felt electric, charged with unfulfilled dreams and heart-wrenching desperation. Her mind raced as she stepped closer, heart pounding. What was she thinking? It felt like jumping off the deepest end of a pool, too afraid to dive. She had to try. Suddenly, silence enveloped the room like a thick fog, it was as if a spell had been cast. Chad turned abruptly, those blue eyes pinched with curiosity. But before she could muster a word, he smirked, dismissing her like yesterday's news. That moment crushed her spirit like an empty soda can, but just as despair began to close in, an unexpected surge of determination rushed through her veins. Emily tapped her phone, preparing to share her words with the world, her finger hovering over send. Maybe, just maybe, the universe had other plans. She imagined a billion-dollar translation, impacting lives far beyond her own. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The crowd was a whirlwind of gasps and laughter. Emily's hand trembled, ready to unveil her words. But what if Chad saw her? What if he truly recognized her gift? The room buzzed with excitement and confusion as the clock ticked, destiny threading through her fingers. Could she really pave a path that shone so brightly? And just like that, the lights flickered, casting shadows and deepening secrets. Was it merely a glitch, or a sign of something much greater? Chaos erupted, phones lit up with notifications, and every eye turned to her once more. What would happen next? Would the past collide into the brightness of this new possibility? The cafeteria erupted in a symphony of confusion as students stared at Emily. Their eyes danced with curiosity and suspicion, a collective judgment tightening around her like a noose. She felt the heat of their gazes, burning more fiercely than 1,000 suns. Panic clawed at her throat, a cold fist wrapping around her heart. What would they say if she failed? In her mind, the clock ticked ever louder, seconds morphing into minutes. Emily glanced at Chad Mercer, still beset by the crowd of cheerleaders. His laughter cut through the noise, sharp and mocking. A pang of envy washed over her. How could someone like him have it all? And there she was, just a shadow in a crowded room. Yet suddenly, with her finger hovering over the send button, she realized, she held potential. The knowledge she had poured into her translation was like molten gold, weighty and precious. With a deep breath, Emily pressed send. The notification shot into the digital ether, unfurling her words like a banner of hope. Silence fell, an unusual stillness that prickled at her skin. She felt exposed, as if her soul had just walked out into the daylight. Was this her moment, or simply the prelude to yet another disappointment? A vibration stirred her phone, and her heart thundered in anticipation. She glanced down, her breath caught in her throat. Messages flooded in, one after another, likes, shares, comments, each bringing with it a rush of validation. Epic. Genius. The words glimmered like stars against the night sky, intertwining with her growing exhilaration, but just as quickly, a shadow loomed over her joy. The doors at the back of the cafeteria swung open, and a figure walked in. It was not just anyone, it was Mrs. Anderson, the principal, her expression carved from stone. The air shifted as she surveyed the room, lips pressed into a tight line. Her presence was suffocating, like a thundercloud shadowing a sunny day. Emily Hayes. She boomed, cutting through the excitement. Can you step forward, please? The students hushed, heads swiveling toward her. The spotlight felt blinding as she slowly rose to her feet. What had she done? The weight of 1,000 eyes bore down on her, and she could barely swallow. Bring your phone, Mrs. Anderson instructed, her tone brooking no argument. Every step toward her felt like trudging through quicksand. Was this it? The moment that would define her? Dread pooled in her stomach. What if the translation was deemed inappropriate? What if her dreams shattered in front of these unforgiving peers? As she reached Mrs. Anderson, a flicker of doubt passed through her mind. Had she acted rashly? Was she just a girl pretending to fly with eagles? But it was too late for second-guessing. The room held its breath, waiting, hearts pounding in synchronization with her own. Let us see what you've shared, the principal said, eyes narrowing. Emily hesitated, feeling the walls close in. Then, as Mrs. Anderson took the phone, Emily caught a glimpse of Chad smirking, a hint of amusement dancing in his eyes. Wait, was that admiration hidden behind that facade? The principal tapped on the screen, scanning the translation, eyes widening. This was it. Would her words ignite a fire or extinguish her spirit? Then Mrs. Anderson's expression shifted, a blend of shock and disbelief flickering across her face. What is this? And in that moment, the cafeteria buzzed back to life, whispers swelling into a cacophony. What lay beneath Emily's words? What power did they truly hold? She felt the tremors of fate shift beneath her, and she had no idea what would unfold next. Would this be the door to her dreams, or the beginning of a nightmare? As the murmurs turned into a roar, Emily braced herself for the unexpected storm ahead. What was about to be unleashed could very well change everything. Would she sink or swim? The air in the cafeteria pulsed with energy, a mix of shock and intrigue hanging over the students like a low-hanging mist. Whispers spiraled around the room, and Emily stood frozen, heart racing, as all eyes bore down on her. Mrs. Anderson's frown deepened, and a strange silence enveloped them, cradling secrets that left an oppressive weight. What is this supposed to be, Emily? The principal's voice wavered between disbelief and a curious edge. The crowd leaned in closer, breath suspended, as they sensed something monumental about to unravel. Emily's throat tightened. In that moment, every text she had ever sent and every word she had spoken seemed to cascade down like thick fog, engulfing her in uncertainty. It's a translation of a popular novel, she managed to stammer, desperation creeping into her voice. I thought it would resonate. Resonate? Mrs. Anderson repeated, eyebrows arching. You've taken liberties here. There are themes in this work. She flipped her gaze back to the phone, her brow furrowed, processing something beyond mere words. Serious implications. Do you even comprehend the weight of this? The principal turned to the crowd, scanning faces brimming with a mix of horror and exhilaration. Do you know what this means? She asked, the question echoing against the lunchroom walls. Emily's breath hitched as she felt the crowd shift. Some students whispering late-night rumors, others fidgeting, eyes wide as they pieced together the chaos brewing around her. Could this be the moment when her words did more than just reflect her insecurities? Was her unorthodox translation shaking something fundamental? The cafeteria erupted into frenzied chatter. A girl standing near the exit gasped. She might have cracked the code. What if this is some form of commentary on our society? Yeah, but the principal will shut it down, a boy countered, biting his lip. Who cares if it's brilliant? It's not allowed. Fear gripped Emily's chest again, twisting her insides. She glimpsed Chad still smirking, but now the look had transformed. Was that a fleeting hint of respect mingling with his amusement? The thought sent an unexpected thrill through her. Mrs. Anderson, Emily pushed through the wall of doubt, her voice rising above the clamor. This translation, it wasn't just an assignment. It's about breaking boundaries. Isn't that what we talked about in class? Mrs. Anderson narrowed her eyes, scrutinizing Emily with the weight of authority. And do you think following your whims qualifies as breaking boundaries? A crackling tension filled the air, thick enough to slice through. The cafeteria, now a battlefield, lay poised on the edge of chaos, just as Emily's heart trembled beneath the weight of what her words could do. What was really at stake here? Then, suddenly, the words spilled out from her mouth, unplanned but raw. What if it's not just about following rules? What if it's about changing the narrative? A ripple of shock traveled through the room, while the principal looked visibly taken aback. Emily sensed an opportunity claw its way into existence. For a heartbeat, it felt like time stood still, hope bloomed amidst fear, then, without warning, the buzzing phone in Mrs. Anderson's hand lit up with a notification. The echoing sound split through the tension, a beacon in the chaos. There's something trending. Something about you, Emily. Her heart dropped. What were they saying now? She craned her neck to see, craning in desperate anticipation. She had captured their attention, but at what cost? As the crowd strained forward and the energy shifted, she knew one thing for sure, everything was about to change, and the question loomed heavily in her mind, was she ready for whatever storms her words would bring? Would she emerge triumphant, or would the very world she hoped to inspire turn against her? The haunting taste of uncertainty lingered as she braced herself for the revelation. Would this be the beginning of a journey into the spotlight, or a quick descent into shadows? The cafeteria erupted into panic, a swirling tempest of voices and gasps as Mrs. Anderson's eyes flicked between the glowing screen and the sea of students. Emily felt the ground beneath her shift, like standing on a fault line moments before the quake. Panic bubbled and coiled tight inside her, and she clenched her fists, trying to hold on to reality. What does that even mean? Someone shouted from the back, voice tinged with disbelief. How could she possibly be trending? It's just a paper. Just a paper. A girl pushed through the crowd, her phone raised high. This isn't just any paper. It has implications. Emily's breathing quickened. She caught glimpses of the scrolling messages on the principal's screen. Some praised her courage, others labeled her a fraud. The overwhelming tide of emotion struck her like a tidal wave, each word pulling her deeper into an ocean of confusion. Look at this. The girl shouted, pointing to a text that flickered under the cafeteria lights. Emily Garcia, the voice of a revolution. Stunned whispers rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Anderson's gaze hardened. This is exactly what I meant by serious implications. Your words are stirring up a frenzy, Emily. You need to understand what you've done. I just wanted to share my perspective, Emily gasped, clutching her stomach, fighting the nausea rising within her. I thought it could inspire or it could ignite a wildfire. Mrs. Anderson took a step closer, her eyes locking onto Emily's, a mixture of concern and disappointment dawning. The chatter intensified, morphing into a cacophony of opinions, accusations, and even admiration. Emily's head spun with the weight of it all. She felt raw and exposed, the spotlight blaring down as whispers transformed into a collective roar. Suddenly, Chad pushed through the crowd, his smirk now tinged with something deeper curiosity. Respect? Hey, Emily, he called out, tone softer than she'd ever heard. "They're saying you've turned this whole thing on its head. Are you really ready for that?" "Ready for what?" she shot back, her voice cracking, her chest still tight with uncertainty. "For everyone to judge me? For this to blow up in my face?" Chad's expression softened. "Or for it to change everything? You could be the face of a movement." The very thought settled in her stomach like lead, while the chaos continued around her. "But what if they turn against me? What if I'm just a mistake they revive to tear apart?" "Or," he said, stepping closer, his eyes intense, "you could be the one who brings understanding. They can't silence what you've said." The weight of his words clung to her, a lifeline amidst the swirling fears. But the noise didn't let up students on their phones tugging at threads of information, pushing theories, dissecting her speech with viral fervor. The principal turned back to her, face taut. "Emily, you need to decide what kind of wave you want to ride. You can't make a difference hiding in shadows." And there it was. Face the chaos or shrink away from it. What if standing tall only invited deeper scrutiny? A knot tightened in her throat. She saw her reflection in the eyes surrounding her, a mix of hope, fear, and an insatiable craving for something more. Just then, the phone buzzed again, another notification, this time drenching the atmosphere in silence, all eyes glued to the screen. New exposé, Emily Garcia, the untold truth behind the trending translation. The currents shifted, an undercurrent of dread weaved through the hall, and Emily felt it deep in her bones. It hit her then, what truth were they going to expose? And what if it wasn't just her words on the line, but everything she had ever hidden behind them? With her heart pounding as if it were trying to escape, Emily braced herself for the storm on the horizon. Would she be swept away or stand her ground? Either way, she sensed that this was far from over. What secret threat lurked behind her new fame? And as the phone buzzed once more, Emily braced herself, realizing she was on the edge of a cliff, ready to plunge into the unknown. The air crackled with tension as the cafeteria fell into complete silence, save for the persistent buzz of Emily's heart in her ears. She barely registered the scrolling words on the screen, unable to process the weight of what they implied. The untold truth behind the trending translation. The phrase clanged inside her like an alarm bell. "Emily." Chad's voice cut through the fog, urgency creeping back in. "What is going on? You all right?" But Emily couldn't answer. Fear washed over her like ice water, freezing her instincts. Thoughts spiraled wildly. How could something she'd intended to be honest and heartfelt turn into scandal? "Look." A classmate pointed at the screen. "It's got people in a frenzy on social media. There's a whole hashtag about you. Emily Garcia Revolution." Another student chimed in, disbelief mingling with intrigue. A few phones raised higher, capturing the moment, fueling the spectacle. Mrs. Anderson moved in closer, her brow furrowed. "You must understand, Emily, your words have sparked a deeper dialogue. But with that comes scrutiny, from places you may not expect." "Scrutiny?" Emily managed, shaking her head, trying to gain control. "What do you mean?" Just then, a group of seniors swaggered in, confidence oozing off them like cologne. At the head was Melissa, the queen bee, her supercilious gaze sliding over Emily. "So, trying to be famous now?" she mocked, her smirk cutting through the tension like a knife. "What did you expect? Sneaking your way into the spotlight? You've got it all wrong, they'll tear you apart." Emily's stomach dropped further. The last thing she needed was Melissa's disapproval, the girl who thrived on crushing dreams like cockroaches. "I didn't ask for any of this," she snapped, finding her voice, her laughs mingling with the simmering tension. "That's where you're wrong." Melissa purred, leaning closer, her eyes glittering with malice. "They love a good train wreck. Trust me." In a heartbeat, the crowd's laughter swelled like a wave, crashing over Emily. Her cheeks flushed as the realization hit her hard. This was more than just a paper. This was a dangerous game, and she was in the middle of a firestorm she hadn't anticipated. "Listen, all I want is to be the face of a movement." Someone chimed in mockingly. "What a cliché. You think this is how it works?" Chad stepped protectively in front of Emily, his jaw set. "Enough, Melissa. You don't know what she's been through." But Melissa just laughed, her voice a silken trap. "Oh, but I do. You're all just sheep looking for a shepherd. And right now, she's your sacrificial lamb." Emily felt the floor tremble beneath her, the crowd's curiosity morphing into something far darker. She could sense the shift, her words had opened a Pandora's box. What if they came for her grit and determination and only found the cracks? Just then, another notification lit up the screen, cutting through the chaos and freezing everyone in place. A picture of Emily's surfaced, one from years ago, the kind you'd hope never saw the light of day. "No," she breathed, eyes darting to the screen, the shame clawing at her. Dread gnawed at her resolutely. "What now?" But a voice called out, echoing even her thoughts. "Why did you hide all this?" In that moment, the cafeteria buzzed with newfound intrigue, and Emily's heart pounded like a drum. With every eye on her and every whisper hanging in the air, she realized she was trapped in a game she didn't know how to play. Could she confront the unknown and rise from the ashes of this scandal? Or would she succumb to the shadows of a past she thought she left behind? A wave of determination clashed with fear, and Emily knew only one thing: the storm had rolled in, and there was no going back. What did that photograph reveal, and would Emily find the courage to face it head-on before it consumed her entirely? A whirlwind of whispers erupted in the cafeteria, each hushed voice cutting through Emily like shards of glass. The photo on the screen held her in a vice grip. She leaned closer, eyes squinting, searching for a glimmer of hope that it wasn't what she feared. But it was the faded image captured her at a dark moment, a time she fought tooth and nail to escape, framed in shadow and shame. "Seriously, Em. This is not a good look," a voice didn't hold back their snicker, and the crowd rippled with laughter, fueled by the craving for a scandal. "Shut up." She shot back, but the words felt weak, barely making it past the knot in her throat. She wanted to scream, to push them all away, but her body felt heavy, trapped beneath the weight of judgment. Chad remained behind her, his presence steady. "Don't listen to them. They want a show." Emily interrupted, her voice trembling. "And here I am, the mess they can't wait to pick apart." A part of her wanted to run to escape the room full of stares that pierced her like daggers. Instead, she dug deep, instinct pushing her to stand her ground. "This isn't who I am any longer. I've changed." "Changed?" Melissa stepped forward, her tone dripping with disdain. "That's rich. Don't pretend like a hashtag can magically rewrite your story. We all remember who you used to be." "Let it go, Melissa," Chad's voice was low but fierce. "You're the last person who should talk about change." But Melissa's laugh sliced through the air, making Emily recoil. "Ladies and gentlemen," she waved a hand like a conductor, "watch as the phoenix rises. Or will she just fall back into the ashes?" Emily squared her shoulders, grinding her teeth. "Watch me," she muttered under her breath, but the determination didn't reach her eyes. With every second that passed, the cafeteria felt more like a pit of predators, ready to pounce on her vulnerability. At the front of the room, someone shouted, "What's the real story? Did you really think you could hide this forever?" The weight of those eyes burned into her. The past, once a page turned, now threatened to rip open anew. There were dark secrets, some moments she'd never wanted to revisit. "Hey!" she shouted, voice catching in the chaos. "I'm not ashamed of my past. It's a part of me, and it led me here." Silence fell for a heartbeat, then the class erupted in chatter again, a mixture of agreement and mockery. Emily's heart raced, sensing the tide turning. All those struggles she buried deep, shame threatened to drown her in them. Then, the screen lit up once more. A message flashed, cutting through her thoughts. "Emily exposed is trending. Tell us your truth, Emily. What are you hiding? Was she really being asked to spill her guts? To expose her wounds in front of a crowd that thrived on drama? She hesitated, uncertainty clawing at her insides. Tell them about your family, Em. Someone hollered from the back. About why you ran away from home. Confusion rippled through her mind. How much did they really know? What did that picture reveal that could unleash even more chaos? Chad laid a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. You don't have to say anything you don't want to, he reassured her, but the doubts hung thick in the air. With a shaky breath, Emily faced the buzzing crowd again, clenching her fists at her sides. Maybe you're right, she began, her heart hammering in her chest. Maybe it's time I stopped running. The weight of those expectations crashed into her, and a stray thought flitted across her mind. Could she share the truth without breaking? Or would it only add fuel to the fire of their anticipation? As she gathered her courage, the screen refreshed with a new image, one that made her stomach churn. Not again, she whispered, dread washing over her. What had they found now? Would this be the final blow that shattered her resolve? Or could she twist the narrative in her favor before it was too late? The cafeteria fell into a low murmur as the new image loaded on the screen, the collective breath of students hissing through the air like a snake waiting to strike. Emily's vision blurred, her heart thundered. She could barely make out the details, but instinct kicked in. The image held her not just in the frame but in the knife edge of shame. It was a photo of her a few years ago, standing in front of a looming mansion, the sign for a fancy charity gala barely visible in the corner. People moved around her with golden smiles and luxury clothes, while she wore a dress 5 sizes too big, the fabric wrinkled from weeks of hiding in the back of her closet. It was the memory of that night, the laughter of those rich kids ringing in her ears. Oh God, they laughed at her. Look, she's part of the elite now, huh? A voice called out, thick with sarcasm, triggering a wave of chuckles that bounced from table to table. Emily's cheeks burned. No, no, no. Don't give them my backstory. Of course, the poor girl made it to the billionaire's gala, Melissa sneered, her eyes sparkling with malicious delight. The $1 million mansion looks even better with her standing in the doorway. Emily's fist tightened, nails digging into her palm. It felt like a spotlight bore down on her, illuminating every flaw, every insecurity that festered in her mind like an open wound. She wanted to escape, to find a hole to crawl into, but she refused to give them that satisfaction. Guess they were just being generous. A guy from the bleachers chimed in, eliciting another wave of laughter. Emily clenched her jaw, fighting the tears that threatened to pour. Chad still stood by her side, his mouth pressing into a flat line. She could sense the tension rising, the electricity crackling in the air. Shut it. You have no idea what you're talking about. She yelled, her voice slicing through the giggles like a well-sharpened knife. Astonishingly, silence fell again. Why don't you just tell them? Was it a setup? Someone yelled, the curiosity crackling like fire in a dry forest. Did you just go to that party to escape your home? The question hung heavy in the room, tauntingly sweet but equally cruel. Would this be her moment to finally take a stand against the whispers? Her past loomed, and Emily knew that answering honestly could free her or lay her bare in front of the wolves. Taking a deep breath, she squared her shoulders and swallowed hard. You know what? She began, her voice trembling between anger and trepidation. Maybe I did go to that party to escape, and maybe it turned out to be everything wrong in the world of glitz and glamour. Another image flickered on the screen, this time of Emily sitting alone in a dimly lit room, surrounded by crumpled papers and unanswered texts. It jolted through her chest like a shocking wave. Where did they dig this up? It felt like her secrets were laying bare, and shame lingered like a bitter taste in her mouth. She opened her mouth, unsure whether to speak the words she had locked away. Maybe, just maybe, the real scandal isn't how I got there but what they did to me once I did. The words dropped like boulders into the silence, sending ripples across the cafeteria. The students exchanged bewildered glances, some leaning closer, others recoiling in shock. Emily. Chad called out, his tone urgent, but her heart raced too fast now. The truth beckoned her like a siren's song. Before she could catch her breath, she continued, I want to keep living in the shadows. So here's the truth. And before she could stop herself, her body leaned into the microphone, the crowd shifted, anticipation crackling in the air like electricity. Emily's pulse raced, poised on the edge of a cliff. Would she leap, revealing her deepest truths? Or would she be swallowed whole by her own fears? The screen flickered again, cutting her off mid-sentence. Emily exposed what's next. The truth you never expected. Panic set in as she realized the crowd was on the verge of erupting again, desperate for more. What truth could she possibly have left to tell that wouldn't destroy her? With her heart in her throat, all she could think was, what had they uncovered now? Would this unveiling finally showcase her as strong? Or would it seal her fate in this cycle of judgment? The cafeteria buzzed with wild speculation, students whispering and shooting knowing glances at one another. Emily's skin prickled with every overheard word. It was chaos, and she felt herself at the center of it, a fragile island surrounded by a churning sea of reductive assumptions and biting mockery. Just tell us what's next, Emily. Someone shouted, the impatience cutting through the hum of conversation. Chad stepped closer, concern etched on his face. You don't have to do this, Em, he whispered urgently, his voice barely audible over the din. But she had already made her decision. The words were bubbling up, clawing to escape her lips. This was no longer about the past, this was about claiming ownership of her narrative. She needed them to see her, really see her, and the truth that lay beneath the surface. Maybe what they did to me was just as cruel as what I did to myself, she said, her voice trembling but strong. The silence that followed felt electric, tinged with the unsteady rhythm of her heartbeat. Another image flickered to life on the screen, this one a blurry shot of her in a tattered coat, hastily taken during a moment of vulnerability. It captured her hunched shoulders and downcast eyes, clearly alone in the rest of the world. A collective gasp erupted from the crowd. Emily felt the anger surge within her, igniting every cell in her body. I wear those scars proudly. She cried out, her voice echoing in the quiet. Those moments don't define me, they empower me. Power? Look where that power got you. Someone yelled, prompting another wave of laughter. Power? Melissa echoed derisively. What a joke. You think any of us would have your back when we see this? The laughter hurt, but this time it didn't crush her spirit, instead, it ignited a fire. Glaring at Melissa, she shouted, maybe the real joke is how blind you all are. I am standing here, bleeding out the truth, while you're all too scared to look in the mirror. The crowd shifted, uncertainty creeping in alongside the laughter. Were they still entertained, or were some starting to question their laughter? Emily could see the wheels turning in their heads, real empathy igniting confusion in the judgment. Who really is the fool here? She asked, her words hanging like an accusation in the air. The audience shifted, that once loud laughter, quieting into an uneasy stillness. A new image flashed, a direct screenshot of her failed attempts to reach out for help in desperate messages. Texts filled with sorrow, calls for connection, and pleas for understanding, all unanswered. What's that? Someone asked, squinting at the screen in the dim light. Did someone leave you on read? Emily felt her chest tighten. She had never wanted anyone to see that side of her, the reality of loneliness that clung to her like the scars on her heart. But with each flicker of her history displayed, she was revealing more than that night at the gala, she was presenting pieces of her fractured soul. Yeah. You were never worth their time, Melissa sneered, her voice raised, but this time, there was a quiver of uncertainty lacing her tone. A boy stood up in the back, his eyes narrowed yet strangely sincere. That's messed up. You're not alone anymore, Emily. Exactly. It's just a moment, it doesn't define the whole story, another voice added with unexpected support. Emily looked around, surprised by the swell of voices against Melissa's taunts. Could it be? Was there a shift happening? Maybe the laughs won't stop, she continued, her heart pounding in her throat, but this time, I'll make sure it's on my terms. The screen changed again, revealing bold letters, unmasked, there's more to my story. What could they possibly have found now? As gasps filled the cafeteria, the crowd leaned forward in anticipation, eager for more. Emily felt the weight of her reality pulling at her again, but she wouldn't back down. She clung tightly to the microphone, knowing she was on the brink of something terrifying and necessary. What more could they unveil? Or perhaps, even better, what would she reveal next? To seize control of her story? And just like that, a new question echoed in her mind. Would these last revelations push her to the brink or set her free? The next slide illuminated the room, and that tension was palpable. The bold words hung, demanding attention, unmasked, a secret never shared. Emily's heart raced as her thoughts spiraled. What secret? What could they have found that she hadn't already laid bare? The crowd fell silent, breaths held, as the atmosphere shifted from mockery to anticipation. She could almost picture thoughts racing through their minds, curiosity blended with fear. Emily felt something shift inside her. Was it hope? Fear? Maybe a little of both. A new image appeared on the screen. This one was personal. A photograph of her grave, flowers scattered on unkempt grass. The date engraved in stone was a shock to her. What the hell is that? Melissa's voice cracked through the stillness, but even she sounded less confident, her bravado crumbling under the gaze of the crowd. Emily clenched her fists, fighting back emotion. That's my sister's grave, she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. She had battles I never faced. I wasn't strong enough for her. I thought if I put it all out there, maybe I could find a way to honor her. Gasps transformed into murmurs. What had they just uncovered? Chad's face fell, a look of horror mingled with sympathy. I didn't know, he began, his voice trailing off. No one did, she shot back, the words slipping out before she could stop herself. Because no one really cares. The crowd shifted awkwardly, eyes darting back and forth. The energy dampened, and Emily felt the weight of judgment heavy on her shoulders. They were forced to reassess her story and the layers of suffering behind her fight for visibility. What are you even saying? This was your sister's choice. Or yours? Melissa scoffed, trying to regain control but with clear uncertainty. Emily's heart thundered. It was hers first. Everything I'm revealing, I'm reclaiming my voice. This isn't just about me being bullied, Melissa. It's about the lives we carry with us. And you're blind to all of it. One boy in the crowd stood, an unfamiliar glare directed at Melissa. Shut up, you just don't get it. His words were sharp, igniting a glimmer of unity against the palpable hostility. We're not just numbers or whispers. We're people. Emily felt the warmth spreading through her, a flicker of hope ignited by that single support. This wasn't just a fight for her truth, it was for everyone who'd ever felt like less. The screen flipped again, revealing her final note, a confession, raw and unvarnished. It was the day she nearly gave in, the scariest moment of her life. She had decided to end the pain, but something stopped her. A face, her sister's face, smiling amid the darkness. I wanted to disappear, Emily said, her eyes glistening. But in that moment, I understood I am not alone. I never was. She could feel the energy shift again, this time lighter, a sense of connection sweeping through the crowd. The jeering laughter was momentarily eclipsed by understanding, by shared humanity, then came the heartbreak. You think this is inspiring? Next, you want us all to cry, right? Melissa's voice was biting, but the conviction was fading. Emily breathed deeply, steadying herself for what was next. You can laugh. You can scoff at my pain. But what if I told you, it's the very pain that gave me a voice? This is my resurrection story. I'm rising up, and if you can't see that, then maybe the real joke is on all of you. Murmurs of confusion buzzed, but Emily held their attention, her gaze unwavering. She was reclaiming her narrative, she would not be defined by the whispers or the judgment. As the crowd found their voices, she noticed their eyes changing, some were softening while others were still steely. But beneath that veneer, something was brewing. A desire for truth. The last slide revealed words that rang clear, "Who's ready to rise?" And with that, a decision loomed on the brink, a choice that would either unite or divide. Would they rise with her, or cling to the comfort of their ignorance? The cafeteria held its breath, and Emily knew something monumental was about to break free, leaving her wondering if she was ready to face the aftermath of such a choice. The cafeteria buzzed with thick anticipation, a strange energy coiling in the air. Students shifted restlessly, eyes darting between Emily and the screen that now pulsed with her powerful declaration. Every soul present teetered on the brink of revelation and confrontation. For the first time, the laughter and mockery diminished, as if her words had grounded them in a different reality. "Who's ready to rise?" echoed like a heartbeat, slowly knitting the fabric of doubt into a tapestry of potential. This was a pivotal moment, the kind that came only once in a lifetime. Chad stepped forward, his eyes glistening. "Emily, you're not just changing yourself, you're cracking the ceiling for everyone. That takes real guts." For a moment, everything hinged on his faith in her. She felt bolstered by it, her shoulders lifting as she faced the crowd again. Together, she spoke, her voice steady now, empowered by the unity she hoped was forming. "We can rewrite our narratives. We don't have to conform to their expectations, we can celebrate every scar and triumph." A ripple flowed through the crowd, faces shifting from sneering to contemplative, some nodding, others absorbing the sentiment. Emily sensed the tide turning, there was a spark. Eyes softened, hearts opened. Perhaps fear wasn't the only emotion filling the room. Perhaps hope intermingled with solidarity. Melissa, realizing her power waning, shot forward, trying to regain control. "You think we can just march into the unknown on emotions alone?" She scoffed, but her voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. The audience hitched in a unified breath, ready to defend or attack. "Emotions alone?" Emily repeated, stepping into the light, unyielding. "What do you think moves the world forward, Melissa?" "It's our shared resilience. It's understanding that alongside the pain, there are dreams and a future far beyond this place." Before the tension escalated again, a sophomore girl in the back raised her hand, voice clear and sincere. "We will never know our limits if we only let fear define us. Emily showed us we can break those walls. I'm ready to rise." The cafeteria erupted. Cheers mixed with gasps, the walls vibrating with new energy. For every derisive comment, dozens of voices began to swell in agreement. There was something liberating about all those confessions binding together, something stronger than individual uncertainties. Chad turned to Emily, raw admiration etched on his face. "This is your moment, you're the catalyst. You've ignited something in all of us. Lead the way." Emily bit her lip, overwhelmed by the weight of their anticipation. "I was never just one thing," she declared, stepping toward the mic, "and neither are any of you. We each hold a piece of the truth, a fragment of what makes us human. Let us be brave enough to share those pieces, to connect instead of divide." The crowd murmured, digesting her invitation. This was no longer about Emily alone, it was about the collective experience. A few students nodded, smiles igniting their faces. The door swung open, and Mrs. Anderson stood in the doorway, uncertainty written on her face. She appeared torn, the power of Emily's message colliding with her obligation to enforce rules. "What is happening here? It's time for change." A brave voice from the back shouted. Emily took a deep breath, ready to bridge the gap. "Principal Anderson, this isn't just teenage rebellion. We're advocating for understanding, for dialogue. We want to rise not alone, but together." The tension in the air held again, thick enough to cut with a knife. Emily drew strength from the crowd, sensing they were no longer spectators but allies. She refused to falter. Let us create a space that nurtures not just achievement but acceptance. Can't we find common ground? With the whispers growing into a swell, she glanced back at Chad, who shifted closer in solidarity. Emily caught his gaze and felt unshakable support. The crowd held its collective breath, all eyes pinned on Mrs. Anderson as the principal's face softened. I understand there's passion here, and I recognize the need for dialogue. She finally spoke, her voice steadying, yet she was clearly aware of the shift in the room. Perhaps it is time we open a forum rather than just suppressing these desires for authenticity. We can make Willow Creek a place where voices matter. Amid the murmur, a surge of hope spiraled amongst the students. Will you stand with us? Emily asked, urgency lacing each syllable. The crowd cheered, raising their hands, 1,000 voices now unified. Yes. With you. In that moment, the fog of uncertainty lifted, revealing a path brimming with possibilities. As the tempest quieted, Emily felt lighter than ever, unbound by judgment or the shackles of expectation. She knew this was merely the beginning, but it was a beginning steeped in connection, kinship, and the promise of a brighter future. And in that cafeteria, they all took a step toward something monumental. Something they'd create together. Emily stepped back, her heart alight. As the crowd continued to roar with enthusiasm, she smiled, ready to embrace the journey ahead. She was not just rising, they were all rising together. If this was the moment Emily had fought for, she was ready to dive into the light. Just as the crowd began to settle into conversations of change and purpose, the screen flickered once more, fading to black. And the moment, full of promise and potential, felt finally like their own. So, here we are, folks, having witnessed the tumultuous rise of Emily Garcia and the power of connection and truth. But this journey doesn't end here. Now, I need you all to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Trust me, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a real difference, and you know what? Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Emily's journey. What did her revelation mean for you? How do you plan to rise too? Finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, let us keep pushing the boundaries.